Dispatch is an episodic narrative-based game developed and published by Ad Hoc Studio, which focuses on the life of Robert Robertson, voiced by Aaron Paul, an ex-hero now working as a dispatcher attempting to reform heroes as part of the Phoenix program at SDN. We as the players are faced with many decisions which affect the story and how other characters may view Robert. Now, as a fan of heavily story-based games, I was super drawn to Dispatch. Having some experience with the Life is Strange games and other role-playing games, Dispatch holds a really special place in my heart. Currently, I have played the game maybe 3 times, and honestly, I could play it again because there were some parts that I feel that I did not explore, and I could, First, let's talk story and characters. The biggest major choice we have is if to cut Coupe or Sonar. From seeing how both storylines turn out, I personally preferred keeping Sonar on the team because Coupe made a much better villain. However, looking at the Sonar fight at the end though, it was animated so much better than Coupe's. And also, I'm a Moist Critical fan, so my bias was showing a little bit there too. That's why I kept Sonar on the team as well. Next, we had to choose between Invisigal and Blonde Blazer. At first, I went 100% Vizzy, and it honestly felt very natural that Robert and Vizzy would fall for each other given the circumstances. Because I also like an underdog character, somebody that nobody cares about, somebody that, everybody has really negative things to say and they come up and they prove them wrong. However, it kind of left me feeling very undecided by the end of the game based on Vizzy's actions. Because I felt like Robert was the main driving force for her to feel like a good person, which is not good. She should kind of be able to come to that conclusion on her own. And I feel like if we got to see more of their relationship, I think that it would turn into like a codependent relationship where she would kind of need his opinion before she made like big decisions. And the reason why I do like it is because in real life, there are toxic or codependent relationships like this that really do exist, which is the most realistic part of it. With Blonde Blazer, however, I felt like the relationship took a lot less work and that the devs just expected us to go Blonde Blazer immediately by the way that the date was animated and the music choices as well. It felt like the right choice. But in the beginning, I will admit, I found Blonde Blazer to be a very flat character, very boring. By the end, I was wrong because she does undergo some kind of change and it shows her versatility as a character, especially with the reveal of her being Mandy and how she feels about her original form and also the powers that she has as well. I feel like there was a lot of growth and I do like Blonde Blazer as a character. Finally, at the end, do we kill Shroud or not? As someone whose first instinct, based on the story, was to be vengeful and kill Shroud because it felt satisfying because of the things that he did to Robert's family, I was left with one question. Does this really solve anything? Would this cycle of revenge and death continue into the following season? Having Vizzy take Shroud out though wasn't so bad, but it also concreted her role now as a villain, which is something she never really wanted to be, but she was forced into being because of her powers. Like, I felt really disappointed, but it also made sense because it was almost like she needed someone there, always on her, to tell her that she was capable of good. Now that goes back to what I was talking about, that codependence between her and Robert, It also showed that she wanted to take like make the hard decisions for Robert because she saw him as being better or above it. This kind of goes back to the decision that she made to go after the the item, right? That they needed for the suit by herself. Why did she make that decision? Again, because she has this need to prove herself, because she knows that she's a villain, and in order to prove herself and for her to be seen as a good person, she needs to do things drastic and dramatic. And I felt like that is Vizzy's downfall, you know? I feel like she should have been able to think for herself a little bit more and be more considerate of other people rather than being selfish, because being selfish was the villain thing to do. Next, we have the gameplay. I am a huge fan of simulator games, so when we got to play as a dispatcher, because that's basically what the game is. It's a simulation of being a dispatcher. I found that it was really enjoyable, even though I did fail coming down to the end in one of my playthroughs because LA burned to the ground, and that was just due to my poor decisions. But I will say I still liked it, especially the hacking sections, because I felt really, really accomplished when I would complete a hack. I don't think that the gameplay was supposed to be challenging. I think it was just supposed to add some kind of interactive element into the game, and also it provided some one-liners from some of the characters so that we could get to know them a bit better, which I did like as well. Next, we have animation. Now, I am not an artist, I am not an animator, but I can see good art when it's presented to me, and I think that the animation style of this game was very, very elite, to the point that it could have been an anime, a movie, a series, right? Aside from the game having that interactive nature with the gameplay, I felt like the animation style combined with the story, because I didn't want to put in too much of the story because I know there are people that are still playing the game. I don't want to give too much away, right? But I felt like it has so much potential to be like a streamable series for Netflix, for Hulu, Disney Plus, those type of, or even Prime, those type of platforms would love something like Dispatch. Next, we have the voice acting. Now, I love voice acting. I am not a voice actor myself. I would love to be a voice actor, to be honest, right? And the voice acting for this game was so good. I felt like we had such a great combination of people, from YouTubers to independent artists, and some who I would call veterans in the game. All the voice acting in the game was so expressive and made these characters feel so alive. The music. Let's talk about the music. Now, the music choices for this game, I think, were one of the best, or some of the best, I would say, right? I like that with the copyrighted music and the non-copyrighted music, we still got a good experience. I also like that Ad Hoc Studios chose like indie, like very, very indie songs, like songs that are not really that well known, and they kind of helped some of those artists to have a career after Dispatch. Because I was watching it on Instagram, the girl who sings Radio, during the scene where they're partying in Robert's apartment, she was able to quit her job, her day job, to become a musician full-time, and I found that was really, really good. Now, the general consensus about non-copyrighted music in general is that it's not the best, but I felt like for Dispatch, their selection really helped the game. Also, I really like that they even included it because they thought about the streamers and the content creators and how algorithms work, and I feel like that was a really nice touch. And I felt, as a content creator, even as little as I am, I felt very, very seen. However, when I did play the game with the copyrighted music, I felt like I got the entire scope of the game. I felt like it was complete. the mood, everything was a lot better for me. This last part is where I think Dispatch falls in the industry and where I think it should be. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this video and particularly this part is based on my opinion and how I feel about it. So I don't want you all to be all upset about it because this is objectively how I think about it. Right? Now, honestly, I think that Dispatch was cheated in the Game Awards because at first they were nominated for Best Debut Indie Game. But last minute, like in the last round of voting, or maybe the second round of voting, they got nominated for Player's Voice. Now, they did not take any of those awards home, and I was kind of disappointed by it, but at the same time, I was happy that they even got nominated in the first place. And you're probably asking, why am I even talking about the Game Awards? Because it's like a glorified like popularity contest, but I felt like the controversy with the cutoff dates kind of cheat this Dispatch out of being nominated. And I feel like they did deserve to be nominated in some more categories. But on the bright side, there was an announcement that Dispatch did qualify for next year's Game Awards, which was a surprise to me, but I am very, very happy about it. I only make these comments because the amount of work and heart that went into the writing, the scripting, the casting, and just everything on the technical side of this game should have gotten some level of recognition. And as a fan, it would have been really satisfying to see Dispatch at least be nominated for more. However, I know for the Steam Award, they did win like maybe 2 awards or something like that, which is really good. I'm happy that they are getting awards for things. I just wish that the Game Awards had recognized them a little bit more. That's all. Okay, so finally, if I were to give Dispatch an honest rating, I would say it's a solid 10 out of 10. This is because I really enjoyed playing the game and I loved watching other people react to the same plot twist that kind of messed me up and looking at the decisions that they made themselves as well. I am very thankful for Ad Hoc for creating such a phenomenal experience, even at the one-liner level. It felt like, even though it was crude at some times, the lines of dialogue kind of flowed into each other and made me love and appreciate the characters and some of the connections they had. I also enjoyed the choice of censorship because I played it with and without, and both ways in some situations it was hilarious to witness. Honorable mentions though will be Beef, my boy Royd, and also Chase. I feel like these characters brought out the most emotion in me, from being happy to being empathetic and also like sadness. And also there was this anger as well too, especially when Shroud decided to take Beef hostage, because who does that? But I guess that just kind of shows like how much of a like sadistic kind of villain Shroud actually was, you know? I think that Dispatch's main themes were really to get players to think about what it takes to be a good person and also the value of redemption. Like if you look at it on the deeper side of it. And they gave us a lot of examples to the characters, like the redemption arc of Mecha Man, or Vizzy battling being a villain or being like a hero, or even the whole Phoenix program in general, that idea of villains being able to be rehabilitated. That was really, that fed into those themes. So with that in mind, is being a good person or obtaining redemption based on our decisions, or can we just sit and blame our circumstances for the way we turn out?